Awesome. So that if you missed out on any of the things we're about to go over, or if you guys want a refresher later on about what's in store, you can just go back to the recording, which we will post. Anyways, let's start off with an overview of our education track. So like I said before, education composes mainly the first semester of the QWeb year, and our mission is really to set you guys up for success in development by teaching you guys modern industry relevant skills, tools, and technologies that relate to web development. Over the course of the semester, the technologies we're going to be focusing on teaching you guys are mainly going to be HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React. If you guys don't really know what those are or you haven't really heard of them, don't worry. We know that a lot of people coming into the club aren't super familiar with web development or coding in general. Don't worry, we're going to be starting up from a level where you guys can learn the fundamentals and basics really easily and have an experience that's tailored to how you learn best. We'll possibly be covering a few other more specialized topics further down the year if there's more interest in the later parts of the year. And also we'll be going over a little bit of info for an experience track that we're also offering further down the line in this presentation. So for the bulk of education, our curriculum is focused on three main components. The first component is hosting live tutorials every week or week and a half-ish, ranging from around 30 minutes to an hour, where one of the members of the education team are going to walk you guys through the fundamentals and applications of each technology that we mentioned. Along with each tutorial, we're going to be following up with a kind of mini project or a kind of hands-on content that goes along with the live session to give you guys a chance to apply what you learned to a hands-on project you can build yourself and really see come forth in your own two hands. Finally, we want to make sure that you guys always have, support and direction to go towards when you have questions or are stuck on something. So we're going to be hosting a few office hour sessions during the year where you can kind of just, pop in, work with a member of the education team rather to sort out any questions you might have. And soon we'll also be putting you guys into what we like to call these mini education groups, which are just, small Discord chats or channels where you guys can ping around ideas. You'll be supervised by an education director or exec like myself to ask any questions with, and overall just have some people there to work on projects together, ask questions, and get support. What we really wanted to do with the education track is zone in on what we as students kind of feel like it's the best way to learn web development. So this means, what we offer is going to be a little bit different than your standard, sitting in on a lecture and watching your prof talk about something, or going on a YouTube tutorial and just watching someone code and copying them for 2 hours. What we really want to do is implement a kind of, compromise between live sessions, offhands, async content, and office hours to give you guys an experience that is really tailored to you and allows you to have a balance between learning from us and having some hands-on self-taught content as well. Another really important thing to know at QWeb is that we really value your guys' feedback. So we'll be sending out a few surveys during the year just to grab some info on how you guys think we're doing with education and anything you guys want to see, whether that's, shaking it up in terms of the format of how you're taught these different technologies, or anything interesting that you might want to learn from us as well. So that's all about it for education. Now I'm going to pass it off to Kevin, who's going to give you an introduction to development.
All right, cool. So on the development side of things, we're mainly responsible for the development track in second semester, and we are here to ensure your success when you're working on your projects. So to get a better sense of what types of tasks we do at development, we can do like a high-level overview of what we do in terms of the timeline. So in the first semester, we're working very closely with outreach to determine client projects and also hash out specific requirements from clients. We're currently in the process of gathering those potential clients, and hopefully by the end of the semester, we'll have some projects for you guys to work on. And keep in mind that development will also give you guys the opportunity to work on your own project if that's what you wish to do. So you have to just remember that. In particular, development is also responsible for hosting preliminary workshops, specifically for team leads, and in general, just like prepare them for development sprint later on when they have to lead a team. So more information on those workshops for the team leads Information will be provided a little bit later. It is a separate set of workshops from what Brandon is doing with education. So just keep that in mind. In the second semester, we'll also be responsible for assigning you guys into teams. More information on that later. And also running additional workshops outside of Brandon's curriculum, depending on the interest from you guys. And we may also host other activities related to development, whether that's project showcases or challenges or whatever. So during the project period, development will be your main source of information about how you guys should be like approaching your projects. So if you ever have any questions about that whole process, contact me or Kyle or Mahad. And in general, if you have any questions about the content you're learning, feel free to reach out to development as well, as we'll also be one of the people who are most knowledgeable in terms of those technologies. So leading back to what projects will look like, you will be put into a team of 3 or 4, including a team lead. And then you will also have the option to work on a client project or a self-started project. Based on survey results, there was a pretty even split between people who wanted to do client project versus self-started one. And yeah, so the development team will be there to keep track of progress and make sure that you guys are receiving the support you need to be successful in your sprint. And yeah, that's about it. I'll hand it off to Renee to talk about design.
Okay, so first thought we came up with when we heard design is possibly graphics, but you don't actually to know anything about drawing. Graphics designers, like you'll only need to know how to do rectangles, triangles, lines, and maybe arrows sometimes. And you graphic designers is not mainly included in QWebs, but will be able to do images, geometric shapes, typography, and maybe more to convey intuitive message for users. But I would also like to emphasize the experience side of the design process, how people interact with one web page and between web pages. So what do we expect from QWeb design tutorials? I will be teaching you guys how to do fundamental graphic designs and also UI UX. I'll explain more in the next slide, and also softwares including Figma, Adobe XD if we have the budget to do that, and Sketch. So what are the differences between UI and UX? UI could be similar to graphics. UI designer's job may include more like illustrations, colors, typography, whereas graphic designers do more logo, add images, and merchandise. UI focuses more on what we see, include buttons, drop downs, and how things are grouped together. UX stands for user experience. A general summary for UX designer's job could be doing their best to make user feel happy, satisfied, sometimes wanting to continue through everything they click. As a UX designer, you often need to consider different possibilities for user browsing behavior. Things like what they will click next and how to attract their attention. Another common consideration you need to have is user accessibility. So when you have ever come across a website with things you cannot see because of the background colors too bright or too dark, that's design without accessibility in mind. So come to the bottom, why should we care about design? As you can see on the screenshot here, the professor is demonstrating some answers for the lab, but we cannot see the dot because it's covered by the avatars. So a second thought I had was, oh, maybe I could put it on the right-hand side so I can see the top. But instead of scaling the screen, Teams actually covered the right side of the answer. And I'm just like, okay. But on a broader view, to avoid the pain of like using Teams, we also need to create audience and create more user engagement, and also optimize development time because you have considered well-rounded user case, and also include all the edge cases. So if they could have done better job at this, they would have thought maybe we should fit in frame instead. And if anyone here know how to do that, please let me know. I'm having trouble to fit the answer key into the frame and track down what he's talking about. I will hand the next slide to Hannah.
All right. Awesome. So thanks so much, Renee. Before we get into web development, we're also going to have a few words from Hannah, just as Renee said, about kind of the overview of Outreach and what they're all about. So if you want to take it away, do it up.
Yeah, for sure. Also, sorry, my camera just fully died, but I have my little avatar there. Yeah, I kind of explained it briefly on the exec slide, but basically we're just going to be in charge of reaching out to companies and clubs, and that's going to be the main source of where we're getting your projects from. So you'll have the option to either make your own kind of web project with your team, or we'll give you one. So in past years, we've had a bunch of clubs request websites and a bunch of small businesses around Kingston. It's just a good opportunity to connect with the community and other Queens clubs, and also just make the websites for them. But yeah, that's pretty much all we do.
Awesome. So now that we've gone over kind of a introduction to all of our execs and all of our departments here at QWeb, let's go a little bit into what is web development. More importantly, why do we care about web development and why do we want to learn it? So web technologies can actually be a lot more powerful than they seem at first glance, and they can give us the ability to build some really, really amazing stuff. We can use web technologies to do more than just websites that show just like text and images. We can create really awesome dynamic and interactive web applications that can do some awesome stuff. And to dive into that, I'm going to pass it over to Kyle, and he's going to talk a little bit more about those technologies.
Hey, everyone. So yeah, there's lots of technologies. It's intimidating, but we will ease into it. And as software engineers or web developers, always learning is the name of the game. They have arrived over time and allowed web to power all that it does today, from the simple websites that began in the 90s to full-blown web software. So for web pages, HTML places content on a page, like text, images, and links. That would be the 5 badge at the top left corner for the 5th edition of HTML, which is the current one. And CSS, cascading style sheets, styles that content on a page, like how it's positioned or the fonts or the colors of it. Those create simple web pages or landing pages. And then JavaScript was invented. JavaScript is the yellow badge at the top middle there. Yeah, so JavaScript allows code to run in the browser and creates pages, allows pages to be interactive. For example, pages can react to events like clicks. If you click a button and something on the page changes, that's scripting the page and changing the content on the page. Or it can make calls or requests to external web servers, or APIs as they're called, which is what happens when you log in to a web application. Then over time, frameworks and libraries like Angular, React, and Vue, which is the middle row, make it easier to use JavaScript to make websites behave like native applications. A good example is Discord, Notion, and Spotify. Those are, even when they're downloaded on your computer, those are actually web applications. They have Chrome sort of packaged into them secretly through various techniques and strategies, which allow those applications to have the advantages that web technologies do, like more customizability over how it looks, make them more pretty. When, you know, instead of looking like that old school beige software with rectangular buttons and how ugly that stuff is, you know, web makes it look better. And then the engine inside of Google Chrome that processes JavaScript was pulled out of Google Chrome one day. That's the V8 engine at the bottom left, and that powers Node.js in the bottom middle, which allows JavaScript to run natively on your computer like it's any other scripting language like Python. And that allowed JavaScript to do a lot of interesting things, like creating web servers, or backends as they're called, or native web applications like Discord and whatnot. We will use everything you see circled. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, that is the foundation of web. And then React for web applications if your team is to work on one. And if your team has a backend, we will be using Node. It's okay if a lot of these concepts are hard to understand right now. We will get in through it throughout education. Some examples of web in the real world was Discord and Spotify. Like I said, those are progressive web applications. Others just like that would be Slack, VS Code, GitHub Desktop, Notion, Chrome itself now, and Microsoft Edge. Distributed Compute Labs, that's a startup here in Kingston that show up a lot if you've ever been to like QHacks or whatnot. They're like multiple computers working together. If you need a lot of computational power, like research labs need to compute a bunch of physics, they can use Distributed Compute Labs. They run off web technologies like JavaScript and WebAssembly. The Ethereum blockchain, JavaScript is the most popular language for the Ethereum ecosystem and powers decentralized finance and stuff like that. For artificial intelligence, Node.js machine learning models with Google's TensorFlow, or deploying machine learning models into the internet to be consumed by web applications. And last but not least, my favorite example, Autodesk AutoCAD. AutoCAD is an old software used by engineers for engineering design. Like cars are designed on AutoCAD, airplanes are designed on AutoCAD. Autodesk just launched a web application for this, even though that's a very heavy piece of software. A case study particularly I'd like to focus on is what is now Canada's largest company, Shopify. You may have heard of it. Brandon worked there last summer. Yeah, they use web technologies throughout, and they put small business on the internet. They're a competitor to Amazon in that way. They allow any person to easily create an online store, which used to be so much more of a hassle back in the day. And they have their merchant platform, which is a drag and drop web editor for creating web e-commerce stores. That's obviously a lot more than just a website. Merchants don't have to download anything to do that too. They can check their store from any computer because it's a website. They have a developer ecosystem where freelance developers who use web to add more specific functionality to other people's online stores. They can, sell their services to customize people's stores, or they can create applications within Shopify's platform that stores can buy to integrate into their stores. Like personalization is a common one. If someone is like making shirts and people want to personalize those shirts on the website, that's like, that's functionality in part of the platform. Last but not least, they have if you've ever bought something from a Shopify store, you may be familiar with the Shop app. A Shop app allows Shopify customers, users who actually buy stuff, to track their orders or browse other Shopify stores. That was built with React as well, React Native, even though it's a mobile application. So they use web throughout their platform, and it allows them to deliver quicker. It allows to integrate all these things with each other more easily. And yeah, it's just a great example of how Canada or tech companies just use web these days.
Awesome. So now that we've learned a little bit about what web is all about, rather, and some of the technologies and cases where we're using a lot of cool stuff, we thought it would be a good idea to kind of show you guys now some of the projects that have been worked on by QWeb teams in past years, as well as some of the projects that have been put together just by our execs and directors that are just like personal projects or side projects we worked on in our free time, so we can give you guys a taste of what you can really do with web development and how people building cool stuff are right around you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit this Figma. And the first thing I'm going to do is both introduce some really cool websites and give you guys a chance to meet and take a little bit of a stroll with our education directors. So we have two education directors here joining us for QWeb this year. The first one is Bobby. We have his personal portfolio website pulled up. I think Bobby should be in the call, so maybe if you want to give a little bit of an introduction for yourself while we take a look at your website, that would be awesome.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, so so I'm the education director for this year. So what that looks like is just I'll probably be running the tutorials alongside Jade and Brandon. I'm in my third year of computer science specialization, and fun fact about me is that I'm colorblind. So web dev is extra hard for me. At least
really?
UI stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, are those colorblind glasses or what?
Yeah. VR goggles. Yeah. So that's. Oh yeah, and I will just say like I didn't even make this website really. I got it from like a template, but yeah, it is React though, so it looks pretty sick. So I can make something like that.
Too much
Bobby
color on
just
your.
let you guys, let you guys in on a little secret. Once you learn web development technologies, one of the best ways to apply them is by getting a template and changing it up yourself, because then you know what you're doing, but someone else can do all the cool UI stuff for you. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, for
that's
sure.
Bobby.
Especially,
And oh, for sure, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, once you learn about React and components, like you can just take components from different places to build your app, you know?
Facts.
Awesome. All right, and now we're gonna take a little bit of a peek at Jade's personal website portfolio. She's our second education director joining us for the year. And Jade, if you want to introduce yourself as well, that'd be awesome. And we can take a look at all the cool stuff you've done.
Hi, so my name's Jade. I'm in my second year of computer science. What else? My pronouns are she, her, and I'm also on Team Cats. I love cats. That's my fun fact.
Awesome. And yeah, you can see both Bobby and Jade have some really cool websites they put together with React and can showcase a lot of the cool stuff they've been working on, their projects, their skills, a little bit about them. And now I'm also going to show you guys a personal portfolio by Brittany Chiang, who is not a part of QWeb, but has a really, really cool website on the internet. And this is an example of a website that is like really polished, has a lot of awesome animations and transitions. If I try to reload, you can see when we first go in, there's this like whole logo animation, everything pops in. It's really, really cool. And this is also built by the same technologies you guys are going to be learning at QWeb. But not only do we have personal portfolios to go over, we can also share with you guys some of the past QWeb projects. So this is a website for SparkQ Studios. If you guys haven't heard of them, they're actually a makerspace right in Mitchell Hall, and they provide things like 3D printers, cameras, and classes on like woodworking and stuff like that, I believe. It's really, really cool. And this is actually the project I helped make when I was in QWeb in first year. So I was on a team with a team lead, 3 or 4 developers with me, and we got together and made this awesome site for the club. And it's got all of these different pages here that you can learn about SparkQ, learn about memberships. And yeah, this is another QWeb project here. This is QFlip. And what we have going on here rather, is we have like a little image gallery with a little bit of a paragraph talking about what QFlip is. We can go to all the different kind of elements here showing pictures and stats and a kind of like quotes gallery. And we can even have a kind of like form here to get mailing list updates from QFlip, which is really awesome as well. And I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a bonus one here that is not a personal portfolio and also not a QWeb project, but this is a really cool website that Bobby sent to me actually. And this is just to show you that we're not all about websites that are just showing static pictures and text. You can even do like really, really wacky and cool and creative stuff with web development. You will probably not be learning how to make, a game like this in QWeb, but it's just an example of all the cool, like different things you can do with web technologies, because as you can see, this is a game that you can play in your browser, and it's made with web technologies and available online as well.
Bro, this is a portfolio, by the way. If you drive like right there, you can see their projects.
Oh, that's awesome. Wait, this is so cool.
So somewhere around the map should be the projects.
Oh my God. Wait, this is so cool. It's filled with 3JS. Yeah, Bruno Simon, hats off to you, my dude. Awesome. So now that you guys have gotten to see some projects, we're actually going to hit you with one more, and I'm going to pass it over to Kyle and let him share one of the side projects he has worked on and go a little bit into what makes a web app so cool and all the different components that go into it.
Okay. Hey, everybody. All right. I have to share my screen now. All right, what do you guys see? Do you guys see this super simple? Okay, anyways, yeah, this is housing rental. So I chose this because it is very small, it's sweet, and it's polished. And if a QWeb team were to work on a web application, this is something among the volume and size that I would sort of expect it to be about. Remember, we are not, 6 years of experienced Facebook tech leads or designers. We're students, we're learning. This was something I did in second year as part of a different club called Beta Lab. A Queen's commerce professor hired us to make a rental platform that recommended prices to landlords. They're mobile applications that other people made. that actual tenants can see the properties on. I built a web application for landlords to post properties to. I didn't build the back end, just this web application front end. Those concepts will make more sense later on. But yeah, it's short, it's sweet, and it's not the prettiest thing, but it's simple and it's concise, and it's you know, it's something along the lines of what a QA project would sort of look like. So I'll just sign up here. The back end, this project was a bit, oh, there we go, sure. The back end is definitely a little laggy, and it's definitely getting a little full because this project wasn't, it was deployed, but it wasn't, the prof did receive it and pay for it, but he kind of like changed his mind on it or something. Even though like it was what he asked for, and we like confirmed the designs and stuff. It's just such a big commitment for him to try and get a bunch of landlords to use it. So the server does not have a lot of space, and it's full of images from being tested. So yeah, basically this is just the home screen. There's no properties because I just created this account, but yeah, a user could just go on and add a property. Where I lived in second year, they could add, yeah, the address, the amount of rooms, bathrooms, parking spots, the type of rental, the rent. They can upload multiple images. Yeah, the multi-image upload stuff was a little rushed. So like it's obviously scaled to the same size and wonky. Stuff like that's like really complicated. This was only done like with one other person in like a few days. But yeah, it's short and simple. Add a description like, yeah, really cool place, like the lease range. The individual components here, they're like material UI components. Like another advantage of web technologies is all the different libraries and things you can use to speed up development and make it easier. For this, I used Material UI, which is just a library of different like React components you can implement into your project, which will make more sense later on. Add some things here like this. Add it, validates the address, make sure it's a real address, shows on the map, is this the right location? We can add that in, and then it shows up like here. It says it's available, and then on the map, the landlord can see like the map of all their properties. He can like manage it. He can like change the pictures, say that it's rented, update it. Yeah, so it's super simple. You know, but it's an application. It's not just a website that shows things. It stores data. It stores this, you know, has authentication, has users. It handles images. It stores data. It can distribute to other things. That's what makes it a web application rather than a website, which for all the computer science and engineering people, which most of us are, that's something we're more concerned with as potential software engineers. I'll bring it back to you, Brandon.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Kyle. Super glad you could show us kind of a deep dive into a real web app that was built just by, you know, Kyle in second year, like he said, which is super, super dope. All right, awesome. So what we're gonna do now is we're getting into a section of the presentation we like to call tutorial 0, which comes after the project showcase. And what it really is it's a kind of high level look at some of the fundamentals and basic concepts of web development, and more importantly, how we want to be teaching web development from a high level here at QWeb. So this is going to be a little bit different from a, you know, intro to HTML or intro to CSS tutorial, because we're not going to be focusing on technical concepts or syntax or any of that. So if you guys are coming into this without any like coding experience, or you don't know, never used like HTML, CSS, what is that? That's fine, because we're going to be able to build up those skills for you guys. And really what we're doing right now is just focusing on kind of the high level concepts and fundamentals. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is this concept of breaking down complicated websites, right? So when we have, you know, websites with a lot going on, like for QFlip, like for SparkQ, all of that, it's really easy to get overwhelmed with all the components. But what I want to tell you guys is that every website can basically be broken down into a box with a bunch of other boxes in it. And I'm going to prove it to you guys, because what I'm going to do is Someone just like enter a random website into the Zoom chat right now, and I'll break that down for you guys. Wow. Okay, thanks, Brandon, for this website. Let's see. Oh, I already have it pulled up, actually. Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at this web page right here and see how it is broken up into different components. So this is actually a personal portfolio for this guy named Rick. He's a friend of mine. I really love that guy. And it was made by our education team here at QWeb. So what we're gonna do is if we hit you with the zoom annotate right here, we're gonna see that our first kind of biggest box is just the website itself. And we can kind of take a look at breaking it down into its different components to simplify the design of the website and take a look and get a better understanding of how it's actually composed. So going from our biggest box here, we can kind of see that like, oh, okay, so we're kind of split up into two sections where we've got the text on the left and, you know, this image on the right. And then we can further break out the components by seeing like, okay, and all of this, you know, text on the left-hand side, we've got, you know, a section for the title, a section for like the subheading, one for the paragraph here, and we've got one for a link to this guy's YouTube channel here too. So in just those like few steps, we really broke down the entire website into each of its basic components, you know, title, which is really just big text, slightly smaller and italicized text, even smaller text, a link, and an avatar on the right. So we can kind of see how we can break down things from a high level and increase the fidelity at which we're looking at each component to really get a better understanding of what kind of components we're looking at. So now that we've kind of drawn it all out, I'm going to show you guys the code for this website. And we're going to take a look at how it's actually been built from the ground up. So this is the HTML file for the web page we were just looking at, except some of it has been commented out. So if you're just seeing this for the first time and, you know, you're kind of intimidated, like, whoa, this guy has got his, you know, Visual Studio code up, like all this stuff I don't really understand, that's okay. Because right now we're just kind of giving you guys a little bit of an intro to what web development looks like. But in our tutorials, we're really going to be taking it from the ground up and giving you guys an intro to web development that suits your learning style and does not overwhelm you from the beginning, taking it step by step to make sure you guys feel comfortable with all the material. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys this code, and I'm going to show you guys what it displays. If I refresh the page here, it displays a blank screen. That's because we've commented out most of the actual content here. And for those of you guys who don't or aren't familiar with commenting, commenting just means when we surround text in the code with these little tags, the computer ignores it and doesn't display what's there. But what I'm going to do here for you guys is I'm going to start building up this website piece by piece. So let's say if I uncomment the first two lines, we can see a quick example of how we might get text on a web page, building our first website. So this is super simple. We have a heading and a subheading that's slightly smaller. What if I want to do more? Well, we can use different types of tags. They're called in HTML to denote different elements. So if I want a kind of paragraph, if I want a link, I can use the A tag. And it's not super important to know, you know, what tags mean what at this moment, but just understand that there's ways to build up different components. So now if we visit the website and refresh it again, we have all our text. And likewise, if we do our image tag, we have a picture of Rick as well. So we've gotten really far. That's really, really cool. But it still looks, you know, not exactly the same as what we were shown earlier. There's no styling. Everything's kind of, you know, just like splashed on there with no formatting. That's where CSS comes into play. So if HTML is the kind of way we describe structure and content of a website, CSS is the type of file that gives it the color, the formatting, the style and the presentation. So if we take a look at our CSS file, it's in a similar format where everything is commented out right now. But what we can do is we can look at how the CSS file interacts with our components that we just went over. So when we look at the file we just went over, we can kind of see that this main part of the code, this body tag, it's like our biggest box that we outlined. And if we kind of uncomment these lines to enable styling on our biggest boxes, we'll see a few small changes. So if we refresh the page here, we're actually not going to see many changes because this is just dealing with formatting. I should have said not many changes instead of small, but what we're going to do is if we go ahead here and go to some of the more fine-grained components, like the H2 and the P, which stands for paragraph, we can see these kind of take form. Oh, actually, I know exactly why. So this is why we have to not skip steps. I forgot to link the CSS page. I knew there should have been a small change when I uncommented those 2 lines. But yeah, what I did just here is I forgot to kind of link the CSS page to the HTML. But now when we reload it, there we go. So you can see from those first 2 lines we uncommented in the CSS, it kind of shifted the formatting around a little bit. Not too much has changed, but we can see that things are starting to come together. And from those other 2 lines we commented, we can say that like, hey, this subheading is now in italics. We're starting to give our text a little bit of style. And if we just kind of go through everything else we went through and kind of add our color to each different component, like the image, like the links, we can see that with CSS, we've transformed this web page into a full website. So that's basically it for what we want to cover in this kind of little primer and intro to the fundamentals of web development. What I really want you guys to take over from this is kind of the idea that we can break down complex websites, even sites as complex as, this personal portfolio, Kyle's side project from second year. Even those kinds of websites can be broken down into step-by-step chunks that we can understand to give a better understanding of how we look at websites. So that's about it for tutorial 0. And now I am going to go back to our slides. And we're going to pass it over to Kevin to talk to you guys about what to look out for next.
All right, cool. So in terms of what to look out for next, upcoming, we have a few different tracks for you to consider based on your background. So for those who are completely like beginners, we will have an education track that Brandon will be hosting for you to learn web development from scratch. So we will start with an HTML CSS tutorial on Wednesday, October 27th. That is a week from now at 6 p.m. And then every week after that, there will be more tutorials with the occasional office hour in between. So after HTML and CSS, you guys will be learning JavaScript. And then after JavaScript, you will get to learn React, which is a framework that you can use to build your dynamic websites. And for those that are more experienced, expect an advanced track where we will be teaching more complex technologies and frameworks. So the first tutorial in that track will be a React refresher by Kyle and Mahad. And then we'll follow that up with a backend tutorial by Kyle, where you will get to write your own custom REST API with Express.js. And depending on what people are interested in, we may have tutorials on AWS or Docker, for example. And yeah, if you're a design person and you're mainly interested in web design rather than web development, look forward to a design track as well. So Renee and the design team will be interested in having some design tutorials where you'll get to learn about Figma, other software that design teams use, and also some UI and UX principles. So if that's something that interests you, be on the lookout for that, as we're currently planning the curriculum for design. And overall, we want you to have more control of your learning. So be on the lookout for surveys and feedback forms. Ultimately, your input will decide the direction that the club will head in. So if you have the time, please fill out any surveys that we might send out. And in terms of projects, so based on survey results, the majority of people want to start projects in second semester. So you guys will get the opportunity to do that at that point. We are currently planning projects and getting details from potential clients. And keep in mind that the first semester is mainly going to be focused on educating you guys, and then you guys will be able to apply those skills in second semester. And if you're someone that doesn't really want to wait, don't worry, we'll have mini challenges during the education portion in first semester for you guys to apply your skills. And depending on how good of a job you do, you may win some prizes based on that. Of course, you can always start projects yourself and build off of the code that you're given in tutorials. So if you have any questions about code that you're writing, feel free to post in the questions section of the Discord server. Or if you want to work with other people on a project, ask away in the server. So yeah, self-learning is like a huge part of becoming a better software developer. So please don't be afraid to take the leap. And yeah, apart from that, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Zoom chat right now. And yeah, remember to follow us on our Instagram at qweb_club. Also follow us on other social media, including Facebook and LinkedIn. You can probably find our pages somewhere. And as always, check the Discord for information if there's anything here that you missed. We will be posting the recording of this event later on. But yeah, thanks for coming, everyone.
Thanks, guys. We're sticking around for a little bit to see if there's any questions, but yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for coming.
Nice. Doesn't look like there's any questions.
Okay,
So.
cool. I'm going to stop the recording real quick.